What up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to the Spun Today Podcast, the only podcast that is anchored in writing, but unlimited in scope. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz, and I appreciate you listening. This is episode 210 of the Spun Today Podcast. Shout out to my alma mater, Junior High School 210. I actually don't know how to say the word alma mater, and I'm also not sure if it only applies to colleges, or if you can have a high school alma mater, junior high alma mater, elementary school alma mater, but nonetheless, shout out to Junior High School 210, which I attended here in Queens many a year ago. But in this episode, I have a bit of a throwback treat for you guys. Re-recording the intro and cutting the original intro out of this throwback episode. Recording the intro today is Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022. But the throwback content from the episode that I'm going to share with you guys originally aired on June 1st, 2017. And what it is a mashup compilation of responses to the Spun Today Questionnaire, which I have absolutely for free on my website for anyone to take a look at and submit to if you feel so inclined. And what it is essentially is 5 open-ended questions related and around creativity and writing. And it's really cool for me because I, first off, get to interact with you fine folks, the Spun Today audience. I get to learn, tips and tricks from your feedback that you share with me. And I get to create content with that and put it back out to the rest of the Spun Today audience in the form of these types of episodes. And on your end, it's also a free way for you to plug a book or a creative endeavor or completely remain anonymous if you just want to fill out the responses to the questions and not plug anything in particular. You have that option as well when you fill it out. And that's pretty much it. Just wanted to drop this quick intro to this throwback episode. Apologies in advance for the sound quality of it, as well as the editing of it. Again, it's an episode that's about 5 years old. That's 5 years worth of learning and trying to produce this podcast a little bit better and clearer and crisper and in a more entertaining fashion, if you will. One day I'll get there, right? And if you're listening to this and thinking, hey, that sounds like a pretty cool questionnaire that I would like to respond to and become a part of a future episode of the Spun Today Podcast, here is a drop that tells you a bit more about the questionnaire, how you can submit to it, again, absolutely for free. And then we'll jump into this Throwback Thursday episode. If you're a fellow creative, a cool way that you can help support the Spun Today Podcast and actually be part of the podcast is by filling out my 5-question questionnaire located at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. Here you'll find 5 open questions related to your craft, your art, what inspires you to create, what type of unrelated hobbies you're into, and what motivates you to get your work done. You can choose to remain anonymous or plug your website and your work. And once you submit your questionnaire, I read your responses on a future episode of the Spun Today Podcast. It's completely free at no cost to you. And what I like to say about it is that if your responses could potentially spark inspiration in someone else, why not share that? spuntoday.com/questionnaire. Now I'm going to pull up the response to the first survey that we have to share. Give me 1 second. Got it right here. And again, this is from David Christa. You guys can follow him on Twitter at David Christa. David spelled David, Christa with a KRISTOPH. David Christa at David Christa on Twitter. And again, he is a science fiction author and writer of a trilogy of books here. It's the first one is Tales of a Dying Star, Book 1, subtitled Siege of Praetor, Praetor, Praetor. The second one is Tales of a Dying Star, Book 2, which is the ancillary. and Tales of a Dying Star, Book 3, which is Sword of Blue. I like that title there. And pretty much the way this is going to work, I'm going to read the survey question followed by his particular response and share it with you guys. Obviously, David chose not to be remain anonymous here, which is why I just gave you guys all his name and stuff like that. Reach out to him on Twitter if interested, and definitely check out his books that I just mentioned. So the first question in the survey is relating, or not survey, I guess, questionnaire, or whatever you guys want to call this. It's relating to your craft. Do you remember the first thing you ever wrote or created? And David responded, "Oh man, it was awful. I was in high school, maybe 15 or 16 years old, and had just, sorry, I'm butchering this, and had just the first 9 books of the Wheel of Time. So of course I wanted to write my own epic fantasy. I wrote a battle scene first. It was the most generic, amateurish, overly purple thing. Pretty much what you would expect someone's first writing attempt to look like. I looked at it a year later and hit the delete button hard." That's cool. That's pretty funny. Thanks for sharing that with us, Dave. And I'm sure we could all relate to that. Anybody, like I mentioned, for me personally, and I'm sure anybody who's gotten into writing or creating anything can attest to that. When they're first starting and something, they look back on it, they're like, oh fuck. Even now, to be honest, some of the stuff that I've written that I definitely won't post on the site is complete trash, and it's what the fuck doesn't even make sense to me sometimes, the next day when I read it. But you got to go through all that type of stuff, and it's all part of the experience and part of the journey, right? And we have to get through that stuff to hopefully get to some good, inspiring shit. Who was it? Ernest Hemingway, one of his quotes, which I like best, said, 99, no, what is it? The first draft of everything is complete shit. So yeah, and that was from Ernest Hemingway. So there's a writer worth his salt. All right, question number 2 here on the questionnaire. What inspires you to write or create? And David wrote, I like telling stories. Whenever I'm consuming media, whether it's TV or radio or reading books, my brain is constantly thinking of stories. I write down all of my ideas in a giant spreadsheet and pull from it whenever I'm looking for something to write. That's an awesome idea. And Dave, I definitely appreciate you sharing that with us. It's everybody has their own style of doing things, right? In terms of writing, I've come to learn and realize just from my own writing and just listening to different authors like David or different authors on podcasts, writing specific podcasts that I listen to, or other podcasts where authors and writers have been on that explain their creative process. There's no set way to do it, or right way to do it, or wrong way to do it. However you do it, it's how it gets done. So you see from this example, David puts all, different random ideas on a spreadsheet, and when he sits down to write, he pulls from those ideas and expands on them. I do something similar, not as organized, which is why I definitely like this idea, because I like the idea of centralizing everything in one place like that. But I have a couple different apps on my phone, one of which is Evernote, which is awesome. Another one which is just a regular notepad thing that comes with the iPhone. And there's a third one, which, what's it called? I'll tell you guys right now. Day One. I use all those plus actual hard copy notebooks, and I jot down ideas in all of those. So whenever I feel like writing, I don't know what to write about, I go back to ideas that are, they could be as long as one sentence to a paragraph of, write a short story about blah, blah, blah. Or just a one sentence, something that just popped into my head that I think sounds cool and could be a possible line of a character in a story down the line that is not yet created. So however you personally go about doing it, do it definitely whatever works for you. And you can borrow from David's idea there, which is pretty dope. The next question is, what is a hobby that you have that is unrelated to your craft? And David wrote, I'm a triathlete. As soon as I read that, I was like, holy shit. That's like some next level hobby right there. That's pretty awesome. And he says, I completed Ironman Florida in 2013, which is a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride, followed, by the way, I mentioned in previous podcasts, I did the 5-borough tour in New York City, which is like a yearly event thing. And that's 40 miles or 42 miles or something like that. And I was exhausted at the end of that. This guy does a 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride, and then followed up with a marathon, like at the end of that. He says, you start at 7 a.m. and have until midnight to finish. I crossed the finish line around 8:45 p.m. Not terribly fast, but hey, it was my first time, so I just wanted to finish. I definitely hear that, and my hats off to you, buddy, for going through all that. That sounds awesome. It sounds like a really cool experience and something you could definitely look back on and be proud of. And that's that question. And I have question number 4. 2 more questions left, guys. This question is, how do you get yourself to sit down and do your work when you're not motivated to? This, to me, is a really important question, both for myself, and it's somewhat of a consensus that I see amongst writers and a lot of other creative types, where you really love doing something, but it's like a bitch to actually sit down and do it and do the work. So hopefully different answers to this question, including David's, which I'm about to read, help motivate us, and we can take bits and pieces from all the responses that we get through these questionnaires, and hopefully help generate more of what we love to do. So David's response here is, I make writing a habit, like a second job. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and write for 2 hours before I go to my day job. I don't browse the internet or check my email or do anything else. I devote that time just to writing. Outlining helps. I create detailed outlines before I ever sit down to actually write. That way, when I'm not feeling motivated, or if I have writer's block, I still have a guide to help push me along. That's awesome. I love that type of dedication. And that ability to make yourself stick to a schedule, which is something that I'm definitely going to have to implement. I was doing I'm still doing this like big washboard calendar thing that I have here right above me in front of my computer here. And it's just like a calendar, and each day has either a check mark or an X going through it. X's are for days that I didn't write, and the check marks are for days that I did write. And I'm a visual kind of person, so seeing that every day, if I see a bunch of X's, it makes me want to write. And sometimes when I'm like on a really good run where I've written for like 5 days straight or something like that, and I don't want to break that streak, so that makes me continue writing. And then conversely though, when I haven't written for 3 or 4 days in a row, that I'm in a slump and I'm like, fuck, I haven't written for 4 days, what's one more day, and fuck, I don't feel like writing, shit. So yeah, that it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It helps a little bit, sometimes it doesn't. So I read something like this with David and his idea of that he's implemented of making it like a second job and an actual habit, forming a habit of waking up at 4 a.m. and sticking to a specific schedule. And that sounds awesome to me. Sounds like something that is necessary if you're going to take writing or anything that you're doing like this to any like degree of seriousness. And let's be real, we can't, obviously there's like so many writers out there that aren't doing this for a living, that aren't making money off this. And we have bills, we have necessities and shit like that, and we have day jobs which are draining, and usually like 9 to 5s and cubicle jobs, and just the whole like the monotony of it, and climbing that corporate ladder, and that type of shit, or anything else that they do. Maybe you have like more of a hands-on type job. Maybe you're a waiter. Maybe you're into fucking construction. Regardless of what, it's all time that's taken away from you following a passion that you might have, and that hobby, that part-time hobby that you have. And then life gets in the way as well, on top of just having like a big chunk of every single day of your life like taken away and devoted just to doing jobs to collect checks and pay the bills. And then things, you keep like pushing things off, and they go to the back burner. And if you don't make a conscious effort and make a conscious decision, and put forth the effort of doing something like this that David mentions here, of setting a schedule for yourself, and forcing yourself to stick to it, and so you make it a habit and form that habit, you're not going to grow it. You're not going to grow that part-time hobby into something significant, really. I mean, you might get lucky, the fuck do I know. Could definitely happen. You could also hit the fucking Mega Millions or Powerball tomorrow or some shit like that, you know what I mean? But you really want to bank on that? Neither do I. So setting a schedule for yourself, I don't know about waking up at 4 a.m. I'm definitely not a morning person, but do what works for you guys. I'm definitely gonna look into doing something like that as well. So again, Dave, thanks for sharing that. And lastly, we have question number 5. Question number 5 is, do you have any advice for other writers or creators, whether they're new, seasoned, or otherwise? And David goes on to write, make writing a habit. If you only write when you're feeling inspired, you'll never finish a novel. Writing is work, capital W-O-R-K. It takes practice and dedication. Write every day, read every day, get better. Just like a baseball player taking batting practice or playing catch, everything you do in this regard makes you better overall. And again, that's an extension of what David mentioned before, and forming that habit, getting into the habit of doing something every day, and really approaching it in a practical sense of building it up and working at it. He uses the analogy there of a baseball player, in batting practice and playing catch and stuff like that. It's all different tools to help expand and better his game. And that's the exact type of approach that we should be taking if we're going to take what we do seriously, and don't kid yourselves. Like I definitely did for a very long time of, I'll get to it eventually. Oh yeah, when I have time, I'll write the next great American novel, and I'll do it in a weekend or grind it out or some, like crazy shit like that. Like, it doesn't work that way. You should put in the effort and dedication that it deserves, first and foremost, and just like anything else, you get out of it what you put into it. So if you're not putting shit into it, you're not getting shit out of it. And that's pretty much it, guys. That is the 5-question survey and answers. Again, thank you very much to David Christoph for taking the time to fill that out and sharing his insights with us. You guys can follow him on Twitter at David Christoph. That's David, D-A-V-I-D, Christoph, K-R-I-S-T-O-P-H. And again, check out his books, Tales of a Dying Star, Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3. All available on Amazon and Kindle. Check out the questionnaire at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. Now, the first one that I'm going to read is the first one I received. I'm always going to read these in order, first come, first serve. This first one that I'm going to read is from Margot Brooke, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and I apologize in advance. But the name is spelled Margaux, Margot, and last name Brooke, Brooke. You guys can follow her on Twitter at Margot Brooke, and you can check out her blog which is margotbrooke.tumblr.com. She's a super cool chick. She has a lot of video blogs, does some writing. She's a model primarily, and she also draws and she paints. I stumbled across her on Periscope, actually. Stumbled upon one of her live feeds. She was just like speaking, shooting the shit. I think she was like at an airport. I don't remember which one. I want to say LAX. And she was talking, doing like a Q&A, answering questions. I asked her on there if she wanted to fill out the survey about writing. She said yes. And I shot it over to her on Twitter, the power of the internet. And, didn't think of it from there. Honestly, didn't think she would fill it out, but she did. And that was super cool of her. So, Margot, thank you very much. And here are the questions and answers from Margot. So the first question of the questionnaire is, relating to your craft, do you remember the first thing that you ever wrote or created? And her response is, or was rather, I can't say I remember the very first thing I ever wrote. I'm sure it was some pink diary where I wrote about my dreams. Not much has changed except now, not much has changed except now my diary is in the form of the, quote, Day One app on my laptop, which is really cool. I actually use myself the Day One app. I don't use it on the computer, though. I use it on my iPhone. And it's pretty cool. If you guys want to check it out, it's a free app. I'm sure they probably have like a paid service or whatever, but I just use all the free shit. And it like organizes it by post, like on a little timeline, by date, and I use it to like write down different ideas, and it's a like cool functionality. You could like add photos to it, tags, and it's like a pretty cool notepad. It has like an option to like alert you. Like I have this like a daily I have like this daily alert on it to remind me to write and shit like that. Trying to like push myself a little bit more, and that's pretty cool. It's dope that you use that also. So you guys should check that out. Next question is, what inspires you to write or create? And she responded, honestly, everything inspires me to write. Sometimes it's a song or a movie or a dream. Sorry about that, guys, real quick. I had to pause the recording because the battery was running low on the Roland RO5 MP3 recorder. So I wanted to switch that out so I wouldn't get, like lose anything or anything like that. So let me repeat. I'm up to the second question on the questionnaire for Margot. And again, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. What inspires you to write or create? And she responded, honestly, everything inspires me to write. Sometimes it's a song or a movie or a dream. Sometimes I'll get inspired walking down the street or people watching at a coffee shop. And I couldn't agree more with her response to that. Same shit happens to me. An idea could just pop into your head while you're like on the subway or like something like that, or driving or listening to something, or you hear a quote or a line in a song that you never really noticed before, or maybe one that you know by heart inside and out, and it just sparks different fucking connections in your mind. Like synapses start synapsing or whatever it is that they do. And just ideas start flying. You know what it reminds me of? Just to go on off on a quick tangent. That Ben Stiller movie, the Walter Mitty, something of Walter Mitty. How he like daydreamed pretty much and just imagined like all these different scenarios that he was going through like in his mind, but he was really just like sitting down like in a chair or some shit, but he would like see a plane pass by and then start daydreaming about being like outside that plane, like hanging on the wing or something while it flies, trying to get into it or some shit like that. Shit like that. Like I just get random ideas and I just go with them in my mind. Some people think I'm fucking crazy and wondering why I'm always quiet and shit like that. It's usually because I'm thinking of like random shit like that. So completely with you on that, and how, you know, inspiration can come from anywhere at any time, completely randomly, and or all the time. Question number 3 of the 5-question survey is, what is a hobby that you have that is unrelated to your craft? And she responded, well, writing is actually my hobby. My, quote, craft, unquote, is modeling, but I enjoy both art forms. I also draw and paint, which is really cool. I saw a few of your drawings ago, and they were pretty dope. I liked them. And again, you guys can check those out on her Tumblr blog, and sure, like modeling pictures and stuff like that as well. I saw a couple. I'm not sure if they were like actual modeling pictures or just, you know, your own like selfies or some shit like that. Because I'm not personally into modeling, but it's pretty cool. And all of the like the links for Margot's blog, for example, are in the episode notes, so you guys can check it out there. Next question is question number 4. How do you get yourself to sit down and do your work when you're not motivated to? And her response to this one is, like I said, writing is a hobby, so I don't really have to force myself to do it. I just write when I want to, which is one of the things I enjoy most about it. There's no pressure, which is dope. If like you said, you do or pursue writing like as a hobby, that's definitely a refreshing aspect of it. Like when it's within that context, when, you know, it's a hobby, you do it when you want to, and it's dope like that because, you know, it's a win-win situation in that example. Something that I wrestle with a lot, and a lot of writers do. It's something that's common across the board, is when it's not like just a hobby, or when they when it's their like primary hobby, or it's tough for writers, including myself, to get themselves to like sit down and actually write. And it's just a bitch to like get over that hump. And, you know, a lot of people that I read about, or that give, you know, successful writers, like in Stephen King's On Writing, or in The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and books like that. And also actually the previous questionnaire that I read, if you guys want to take a listen to my the previous free writing episode, the first questionnaire that we received from David Christoph, which is a sci-fi writer, a consensus, sort of kind of consensus, to battle against that type of resistance when you want to write, when not just like when you feel like it, but you have the sense of like you have to, but you have writer's block, or you're lazy, or whatever it is setting a schedule up for yourself and forcing yourself to sit down and actually do the work. But yeah, there's definitely something freeing and pretty cool about not feeling like that added unnecessary layer of pressure when you're doing something that you enjoy, because ultimately that's what it's about, right? You should be enjoying what you're doing and doing it because you enjoy it. And lastly, question number 5 is, do you have any advice for other writers or creators? In parentheses, whether they're new, whether they're seasoned, or otherwise. And Margot responded, my advice is just to write what you want and don't worry about what other people may think. Even if you have to write something to be published, get it all out, then edit if you have to. Don't edit as you write. And absolutely, I couldn't agree more. You're always going to have a shitload of chefs in the kitchen, and, you know, too many chiefs, not enough Indians. There's a shitload of those types of analogies where everybody wants to put in their input and like change your shit and guide you in certain directions. And it's good to keep an open mind because you learn from certain types of criticisms, and there's something to be said and to be gained from certain encounters. But it's also counterproductive, in my opinion and experience, to just continually keep shape shifting and changing and remolding and just continuously like changing and editing and fixing shit just to appease different people, because you're not gonna appease everybody. And the number one person you should be trying to appease and to make feel fulfilled is yourself, because you're doing this for you. That should be your number one. You should be your number one fucking fan, even though like when you create certain things, and this is also something common from writers and other creative types, they don't like their own shit. And I feel that way all the time. Like I don't listen to like my own podcasts and stuff like that. Skim through them sometimes just to make sure everything, like the sound quality and shit like that, sounds good and stuff like that, and see if I can get through listening to a few minutes of it just to remind myself, oh, you say too much and stuff like that, just like clean up that type of shit. But ultimately you should be happy and proud of what you do, and don't fall into that trap of trying to appease everybody and change shit for people. If you like it, if you're happy with it, if you're proud of it, continue doing it, continue grinding for yourself. And there's fucking like 7 billion people in the world. If you like it, the odds are somebody else will also. It's just a matter of them actually finding it. And you know what? If you're the only motherfucker on the face of the planet that likes your shit, so be it. Fucking congratulations, because you're making yourself happy. And that is it with the questionnaire form submission from Margot Brooke, which again, you can follow her on Twitter at Margot Brooke, MargauxBrooke, and check out her Tumblr blog at margotbrooke.tumblr.com, and the links are found in the episode notes for this podcast. Thank you very much, Margot, for taking the time to fill out that questionnaire for us and share your perspective on creating. And now for the second questionnaire that we have for today, which is the final one, is, again, like I mentioned in the intro, one that I'm pretty excited about because I'm kind of a fanboy of this gentleman. I've read one of his books, which is Create Your Own Religion. And he has a few more books that you guys can check out. I put a link in the episode notes for this episode to his Amazon page. He has like 5 or 6 books. I don't remember the titles of each of them. One of them is Create Your Own Religion, which I really enjoyed. He went through a lot of positives and pointed out a few holes in a lot of different religions. And the idea of it, at least from what I took from it, was kind of like the Bruce Lee-ish approach to religion. Like Bruce Lee's approach to martial arts was, instead of picking one martial art and sticking to it, pull out the shit that works in each one and use them all. Why not? So Daniele kind of took that same sort of approach with Create Your Own Religion in going through different religions, and it's a pretty dope read. I enjoyed it a lot. He's a writer. He's a professor out in a university in Los Angeles. I don't remember which one. And he is the host of one of my favorite podcasts, the Drunken Taoist podcast. Again, I heard him first on Joe Rogan's podcast a while back. He's been on it a few times. I heard him the first time. I remember I was on my way to Massachusetts, where my fiance lived before, and I had these 4-hour long drives every other weekend to go up there, and for fucking 5 years. Looking back on, I don't know how we did it, how we got through that, but we did. And yeah, I remember listening to his first episode on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was pretty captivating, had a lot of cool points, and was fun to listen to. So when he started the Drunken Taoist podcast with his co-host Rich Avers, it was like a no-brainer to start listening, and I've listened to everyone since. So I'm a big supporter. And shout out to Daniele Bolelli. Really appreciate you taking the time out to fill out this questionnaire and sharing your insights with us as well. And Daniele's also a martial artist. I don't know if I mentioned that before. But I was actually watching a couple of YouTube videos that he has on his YouTube page, which is pretty dope, of some jiu-jitsu, which is pretty cool to see. And you guys can follow him on Twitter at D Bolelli. D as in Daniele, B as in boy, Olelli. And let's go. And away we go, like they say on the Drunken Taoist podcast. And question number 1 is relating to your craft. Do you remember the first thing you ever wrote or created? And Daniele responded, yeah, something I wrote when I was 11. Touche, Daniele. Touche. I guess I should rephrase the question in saying something to the effect of, do you remember what you wrote and what is it? But from that, I get something cool, which is like a lot of writers, not all, but a lot, and creators, they begin at a very young age. They have like this visceral, deep down connection to it. And for example, like with me, I remember writing a short story. I mentioned this in one of the previous episodes, so I'm not going to bore you guys with all the details of it, but I wrote some short story when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and it was like a combination of some army movie that I was watching and Encino Man. I don't remember if you guys remember that movie, Encino Man, with Pauly Shore, where they find a caveman when they're like digging up a pool. And they find a caveman which was buried underground in like an ice capsule or some shit. And it was like a combination of those two things. And the premise of the story was some man that was in battle in a war many years back, and there was an avalanche or something like that. He got buried alive, and then came to about 1,000 years later. And the name of the story was 1,000-Year-Old Man. But yeah, I was like 8 or 9 years old when I wrote that. And then I like strayed away from writing. Never did much of it since then. I like dabbled with, like writing girls' letters and poetry. And I used to like writing, like book reports and like shit like that, like school related things. But never something, I guess, quote unquote official. And that's something that I read a lot about in both like Mastery with Robert Greene's book or The War of Art. That thing that you love to do, that thing that you were like meant to do, you kind of know it as a child, but somewhere along the way, life gets in the way and you lose sight of it. And when you reconnect to it, it's pretty awesome, and you kind of like know it, and it's weird to like explain, but that's pretty cool that you started writing when you were 11, or at least that you can remember. And question 2 is, what inspires you to write or create? And Daniele responds, it helps seducing women. Also, I feel like if I don't, I may explode. Oversized emotions need an outlet. I couldn't agree more. Definitely don't want you exploding, and it could definitely help in seducing women. Those roses are red, violets are blue poems I used to write back in high school to chicks got me like a date or two, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I like that part of oversized emotions needing an outlet, which they absolutely do. And whatever it is that you're into, again, whether it's writing or painting or anything like that, you do feel, at least I do, feel a big relief when you complete something or when you do something within that vein. Like we were mentioning before with Margot's questionnaire, that sometimes it's like super tough to like sit down and actually do the work. And I feel like that builds up inside you, like that angst and like that need to just let shit out. And I definitely feel like that release and that outlet when my pen comes all over the page. and yeah, it's pretty cool. The next question is, what is a hobby that you have that is unrelated to your craft? And he says, Daniele says, very wisely and insightfully, he says, everything is related. Just those 3 words, everything is related. And I absolutely agree. And it ties into what we were saying before, when you're walking down the street, when you're in the subway, when you're driving, when you're taking a shower, and anytime. You can get inspired, you can get ideas, you can take things from one situation and apply them to another. And something I love too is like when, for example, like a habit that I have is like I might have an idea. It could be like a line or a piece of dialogue that I think just flows well together, or some quote, or like half a quote, or it's like nothing, right? But it's nothing, but it's something. Like it's nothing yet, but it's like the seedlings of something. And that's what I use, like that, like Day One app, and I use the Evernote app, and just like the regular Notepad app on my phone, like shit like that. I just like jot down, and I have like dozens and dozens of like different things that have nothing to do with each other, but that are just like random, like loose end ideas. And eventually I find that like when I'm writing a short story or working on something, that I like draw from that like pool of ideas, and like those ideas connect with other ones that, you know, weren't even created at the same time, and tie in together perfectly. So it's like they're all out there like in the ether, and you're like just channeling the information, throwing it up on your page, and like just putting it all together like a puzzle piece. And it's like, it truly is, everything is related. Your relationships, your feelings, your emotions, your observations, other people's experiences, and when they share it with us, when you're listening to podcasts and shit like that, like music, everything. So it's definitely true. Couldn't agree more with that. Question number 4 of the 5-question survey is, how do you get yourself to sit down and do your work when you're not motivated to? And Daniele responds, unless I do, meaning unless I do right, I will take out a knife and stab myself in the stomach in an act of ritual suicide. Spoken in true Daniele form. And that ties into what we were saying before when reading the first response to the first question about writing when you were 11, which is like that need and like having to do it. Or in question number 2 also, if not like exploding. It's like the motivation to do it in and of itself is the fact that you need to, in and of itself rather. Because if you don't, you will explode and self-destruct and just have all these pent-up emotions and be snapping at people and flipping out and being a pretty unpleasant person to be around, probably. So I'm definitely with you on that. Unless I do, I will take out a knife and stab myself in the stomach in an act of ritual suicide. I love that one. All right. And the final question is, do you have any advice for other writers or creators, whether they're new, seasoned, or otherwise? And Daniele's response is, either create something that hardens nipples and tickles the soul, or don't do it at all. Well said, my friend. That is awesome advice. Of course, you should always be striving to give it your best and go hard at what you do. Have pride and honor in what you do. Don't half-ass it. Jump in with both feet and give it a fucking shot. It's your thing. It's the thing that only you can create, that only you can share, can give to the world, to the universe, to all of us. And you should. If you have it inside you, if you feel it inside you, let that shit out. Take all those oversized emotions. Grab all the relativity within the orbit of your world. Put it all together in your best, hardest efforts. Or don't fucking waste anyone's time in doing it at all. Great advice, Daniele. Thank you very much again for throwing a fellow podcaster a bone. Well, let me not say fellow podcaster. I'm not going to compare this to the Drunken Taoist podcast, but nonetheless, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you taking the time to share your insights with us, and thank you for doing what you do, because it's definitely an inspiration. Again, folks, you guys can check out more about Daniele by going to thedrunkendaoist.com. That's the THE Drunken. Taoist is spelled TAOIST.com. And the link for that is also in the episode notes below. You can also check out the link to Daniele's books on Amazon. I recommend Create Your Own Religion, and you guys can check out a slew of others on his Amazon book page, which there's also a link for that in the episode notes of this episode. And highly recommend for you guys to subscribe and listen to the Drunken Taoist podcast, which is Daniele's podcast, and you guys can find that on iTunes and Stitcher, and also on Daniele's website. Margot, Daniele, thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time out to share all that with us. Now, to round off the show, we have listener. I want to say a listener. I'm not sure if you're a listener, Christa, but I know we connected on Twitter, and she filled out the Spun Today Questionnaire, which again is open for any and everyone to fill out. And the way it works is go to spuntoday.com/questionnaire, and you can fill out 5 questions, which is meant to basically inspire others, and as well as myself, in just finding out how people do whatever it is that they do, whatever it is that they're into, whatever it is that they're creatively into, whether it be writing or comedy or acting, whatever it is that you're into on a creative tip, fucking making pencils out of tree bark and lead, whatever it is that you like, whatever it is. I think there's you can take greatness and passion from anything and apply it to whatever you're passionate about and want to be great at. And I think these 5 questions that I put together there on the questionnaire are a pretty open-ended question, and I get helpful stuff from them. And I find certain things helpful and funny and interesting, and other people can and do as well. So we have, and of course you have the option to remain anonymous, where I will read your responses on the podcast, and I don't have to say who the hell you are or anything like that. And it's the last drop down on the list of questions, of the 5 questions. There's a little box at the bottom. Right after that says remain anonymous, yes or no. If you click no, I'll tell people who you are. If you click yes, I'll keep it anonymous. Today's entry is from a young lady by the name of Christa, and she goes by Twitter handle Girl Oxygen, spelled same exact way as those 2 words are spelled. Girl, Girl, and Oxygen, Oxygen. Christa, thanks in advance very much for filling this out. And let's go through it. Let's share what you shared with us here. So question number 1 of the questionnaire is, relating to your craft, do you remember the first thing you ever wrote or created? Christa responded, I was a hairstylist for 18 years. That's a long time to like be doing a specific thing. That's love right there. I was a hairstylist for 18 years, but forced to retire due to being diagnosed with a rare fatal lung disease called pulmonary hypertension. And that's really horrible. And sorry that you're dealing with that. And she goes on to explain it's high blood pressure of the arteries inside the lungs and eventually leads to right heart failure. That was 5 years ago. I've always enjoyed taking photos with my phone, so I decided to invest in an Nikon. I haven't. That's an awesome camera, by the way. I'm not sure which one you have, but Nikons are, up there, like top 2, or if not like the best, it's like top 1, 2, or 3 like cameras, like on like any list that you look at. So it's really cool. She goes on here to say, I haven't felt well enough to really take it out, which sucks. And I hope that that's something that you can continue to work at. I'm not sure exactly how the pulmonary hypertension works. And, hopefully it is something that I know you mentioned that it's a fatal lung disease, which is really sad, but like I said, I don't know much about it. I did see that there's a link on your Twitter page, and I began to read a little bit about it. But I don't know much about it in the sense of if there's like ups and downs. Hopefully there is. And you are able to, get out there and use your camera and take some pictures. But she goes on to say, and it's really cool. She goes on to say, my sister has a BFA in graphic design, but decided to go back to earn her teaching certificate. Now she's an art teacher. What better person could help me with painting? Which is cool. That'd be awesome, right? Keep it like within the family. Your sister becomes a teacher. You want to learn painting. She becomes an art teacher. Sounds perfect. She goes on to say, we didn't get to paint together, so I started watching the Art Sherpa. Completely butchered that. The Art Sherpa videos on YouTube. I've been painting on and off since April of this year. I've painted, and this year, for any listeners in the future, is 2015. From April of this year, I've painted over 50 canvases since April. So you got April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Not even 3, because Christa, if I'm not mistaken, you filled this out, when was it? Like the beginning of November, right? So August. So in 7 months, you did 50 canvases. That's awesome. That's fucking really prolific. That's really cool. And I've even sold some. So on top of putting your all into it, you're actually fucking good at what you do. So it's really super cool. That's so rewarding. My first painting was a whimsical tree. I paint with acrylics, but I'm dabbling in watercolors. And that's Chris's answer to question number 1, which is so fucking awesome and really inspiring to hear something like that. And I know a lot of other people are going to be inspired by the same. And I love that aspect of dealing with something, so with a disease that's fatal in this specific case, and having the gumption to follow up your passion still, which is so like admirable and really awesome. And not only follow your passion, because you have a passion for something, and then even if you were like, it kind of knocked you down and you weren't able to go out and take pictures with the camera that you invested in, but you took that passion and you channeled it into something else, and you still allowed just that raw passion to fucking pour out of you and like come out. And I'm sure I would love to see some of your like paintings and stuff like that. I checked to see on your Twitter page if there's a link to the paintings or anything like that, and I didn't find that. I just found the link to the pulmonary hypertension website, which if anybody wants to know again more about the disease and stuff like that, check it out on there. Again, Christa, it's Girl Oxygen. It's her Twitter handle. She has a link right there on her profile. But I would definitely love for you to like tweet me a link or DM me a link or something like that. If you have any of your paintings anywhere. If you don't, I would recommend crated.com, CRATED.com. It's actually a website that I partnered with. It's like free to like partner up with them. And you can like put up your stuff there. And I put like the photography that I take, I put on there, and people can like purchase prints, like posters and canvases and stuff like that of like actual photography. But I'm pretty sure you can sell all types of art like through there. I'm not positive, but check it out. It's worth checking out. Like I said, in terms of photography, it was free. They just take a cut when anybody purchases any like posters or prints or anything like that. So check it out. Again, it's called Crated, CRATED.com. But again, if you have like your stuff on any other website or pictures of it or anything like that, like I would definitely love to see it. It sounds really awesome. And that's fucking, I wish in 7 months I could sit down and create 50 of anything. And that's really inspirational and just lit a fire under my ass to fucking go do some writing. So thank you. Question number 2 is, what inspires you to write or create? And Christa responds, honestly, I paint because it's great therapy when you're too sick to leave the house because of a chronic illness. And definitely I agree with that in terms of like passions and stuff that you're into being completely therapeutic and cathartic. And I'm glad it's having that positive effect on you. Question number 3. What is a hobby that you have that is unrelated to your craft? And Christa responded, I love TV, probably too much. And you remind me of my fiance, who I'm sure completely shares in your sentiment for television. She continues to say, I love comedies, things about monsters, and so I'm guessing like The Walking Dead. That's my little zombie sounds. And the History Channel. I wanted to make a point when I read this before to put you on to, if Christa and anybody else who's listening also, if you don't know already, you're gonna love me after this. If you're into history, and especially like the History Channel, like that narrated style of history, check out a podcast called Hardcore History. It's with Dan Carlin. It's a podcast that's always like in top 10 in iTunes like all the time. And it's super dope. If you have any inkling whatsoever towards history, like even if you like it a little bit, he will make you love history. And if you love history, he'll fucking blow your mind. He'll blow the top off your head. Like those fucking jet.com commercials that they're giving now. It's really dope. Definitely check it out. It's a podcast called Hardcore History. It's with Dan Carlin, and the work and passion, like he's a fucking like awesome. He's fucking awesome. He's like a gem, a fucking what's the word I'm looking for? He's a treasure. The like podcast episodes, and what I love about podcasts, you can pause them, pick them up, and put them down whenever you want. They are literally, I think, like 4 hours long, and he'll go so deep into the history of a specific topic that it would be like 3, 4, 5 episodes long. So you're talking like 20 to 25 hours worth of content on a specific historical topic. And the passion and work that he puts into each and every episode completely comes out, completely shines through, completely comes out like through his microphone. out of the earbuds and into your ears. Like, it's really, really dope. Couldn't recommend it enough. So if you like history, definitely check him out. Again, it's Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. And we're up to question number 4, which is, how do you get yourself to sit down and do your work when you're not motivated to? And Chris's response is, I don't really have to work. So that's probably why it's so easy to sit down with it. Haha. And that's awesome. When, it's like that saying, and when you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life. And that's really awesome that you found that. And glad that you are so invested in that. And that's something that you hear a lot with people that like fall in love with what they do, which is really cool, and a place I definitely want to be in. I think, the only place actually that it's not completely like across the board, I would say, is within writing. Because there's like a through line within, that's common within, or with writers rather, that you just fucking hate to sit down and do the work. Like, you fucking hate it. You hate to have to actually write and do it, but you love to have written. And that's like a famous quote or whatever. I hate to write, but I love to have written. And some people actually like the process. Like me, so there's 2 sides to it, I guess. Like, people that just completely hate putting in the work to do it, to write. And then there's where I fall, which is I hate the part of getting myself to do it. Kind of like getting up and going to the gym. Like, I hate like sitting down and saying, okay, now I gotta write. But once I start, like literally once the pen touches the paper, it's completely awesome and like cathartic and therapeutic, and all that like comes out like literally instantly each and every time. And especially when you get into like a flow state, and ideas and thoughts are just rolling around in your head, and you pouring out of you. And then afterwards, when you have something, whether it's a free writing piece, or when you finish writing first draft of a short story, or anything else that you're working on, like having that body of work in front of you, whether, no matter how like good or bad you may think it is, it's like you're kind of proud of it. Like, it's like a proud moment, like something that you reflect on. And it's like, oh shit, I just fucking like made that, I created that. Like, it didn't exist before, and now it does. And I just made that happen. And that's really cool to like birth something into existence like that. So definitely kudos to you on that, on loving what you do and not feeling like it's work at all. And the last question that Christa has, that Christa answered, is, do you have any advice for other writers or creators, whether they're new, seasoned, or otherwise? And Christa says, don't ever say I can't do that until after you've actually tried it. You may surprise yourself. I didn't think I could paint, and I painted 6 Darth Vaders, that's dope, in one day, plus some other commissioned Star Wars pieces. That was after only painting for 2 months. And, well, Miss Lady, you have definitely talented. And again, I want to see, you're talented just based on the stuff that you're telling us here. Painting for 2 months and selling Darth Vaders, and, just selling any paintings. And it sounds so dope. And you're really prolific, and it's really inspiring. And I wish you all the best and continued health and success in what you do. And thank you very much for taking the time to share your story with us, and share in general. Continue painting, continue loving what you do, and definitely hit me up on Twitter, like I said. Tweet it at me, like a link with your paintings and stuff like that, and I'll definitely retweet it. And guys, anybody listening, if you guys want to check it out, or check out Christa, you can reach out to her on Twitter. And again, her handle is @girloxygen, GirlOxygen. And that, folks, was episode 210 of the Spun Today podcast. I hope you appreciated that throwback content and got some tips and tricks and gems out of it for yourselves. I know I definitely did. And shout out once again to David Christoph, Margot Brook, Daniele Bolelli, and Christa, all of which I will link to their respective content within the episode notes of this episode, so you guys can check out their stuff as well. And again, if you'd like to submit a Spun Today questionnaire of your own, go to spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And last but not least, if you want to continue supporting the Spun Today podcast, it would be and is immensely appreciated. It helps me free up time to be able to create more shows and content to share with you fine folks. And here are a few ways you can help support if you so choose. Peace. What's up, folks? Tony here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast as much as I enjoy producing it for you. Here are a few quick ways you can help support this show. You can support the Spun Today podcast by going to spuntoday.com/support. There, you'll find my merch section, where you can cop the iconic Podcasts vs. Anybody t-shirt in a wide variety of different colors and all different sizes. Also, if you're into cycling, you can cop the super soft, comfortable, minimalist design Spun Today Bike Club t-shirt. Also available in a bunch of different colors in all different sizes. There are a few other designs of different types of t-shirts. Definitely go there and check it out. spuntoday.com/support. It's the merch section, where you can also get a dope coffee mug. I have coffee mugs with the brand new redesigned Spun Today logo on one side and the tagline that I end every show with on the other, which is start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. The mug is available in both black and white, because we don't discriminate here at the Spun Today podcast. Again, go to spuntoday.com/support and check out the merch section. You can support the Spun Today podcast by checking out my writing. You can go to spuntoday.com/free writing and check out some of my free association writing, which is intended to be some cathartic free writing, but oftentimes doubles down as motivation for myself and others. At spuntoday.com/short stories, you can read a bunch of the different short stories that I've written and actually listen to the audiobook versions of those short stories there as well. Another way you can help support my writing is by going to spuntoday.com/books and checking out what I have in store for sale. Digital copies are available in all formats, whether it be Kindle, iBooks, or a different type of e-reader. You can also purchase paperback copies if that's your preferred reading method. Currently available, I have my nonfiction, Make Way for You, which is a collection of freely written thoughts that were curated and put together as tips for getting out of your own way. Also available is my debut time travel novel titled FRACTAL. Again, go to spuntoday.com/books to show your support. Support the Spun Today podcast by following me on social, at Spun Today on Twitter, at Spun Today on Instagram. Please also check out and like my Facebook page, facebook.com/Spun Today, and subscribe to my YouTube page as well. On my YouTube page, not only will you get these full-length episodes, but you'll also get to check out some chopped up clips and bonus content. To get to my YouTube page, just search Spun Today on YouTube or click on any of the YouTube icons on the footer of my website. Also, don't forget to rate and review this podcast wherever it is that you're listening. It really does help. The Spun Today Newsletter is available to each and every one of my listeners absolutely for free. All you have to do is go to spuntoday.com/subscribe and drop in your email address. What I'm going to do is brighten up everybody's least favorite day of the week by delivering 5 curated things within my weekly newsletter every Monday at noon. You're going to receive a photo of the week, a recommended podcast of the week. I listen to tons of podcasts from an array of varied interests. I cherry-pick the very best ones so that you can check them out. I also share a video of the week, which can be anything from a tasty recipe to a dope rap battle to an enlightening TED Talk. I also share a quote of the week. And finally, for my fellow wordsmiths out there, a word of the week, so that you can step up your vocab. Again, this curated list is yours absolutely free by going to spuntoday.com/subscribe and dropping in your email address, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Again, go to spuntoday.com/subscribe drop in your email address, and you'll get the very next one. If you want to help support the Spun Today podcast financially, you can do so by going to spuntoday.com/support. Here you'll find a few different ways that you can do so. You can shop on Amazon, but first go to my website, spuntoday.com/support, click on the Amazon banner, which will take you to Amazon's website where you do your shopping like you normally do. It will not cost you anything extra, but I will get credit for driving traffic to their website. Another cool way that you can help support this show is through Patreon, where you can set up reoccurring donations to my podcast, whether it be $1 per show, $2 per show, etc. And depending on how much you choose to pledge, you will receive some Patreon perks in return. Things like free writing pieces, free bookmarks, free digital copies of my books, etc. Again, my Patreon link can be found at spuntoday.com/support. You can also set up similar reoccurring payments via my Ko-fi page. And if you want to send a one-time happiness bomb donation, if you will, you can do so via my PayPal link. Again, all of which can be found at spuntoday.com/support. If you're a fellow creative, a cool way that you can help support the Spun Today podcast and actually be part of the podcast is by filling out my 5-question questionnaire located at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. Here you'll find 5 open questions related to your craft, your art, what inspires you to create, what type of unrelated hobbies you're into, and what motivates you to get your work done. You can choose to remain anonymous or plug your website and your work. And once you submit your questionnaire, I read your responses on a future episode of the Spun Today podcast. It's completely free at no cost to you. And what I like to say about it is that if your responses could potentially spark inspiration in someone else, why not share that? spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And as always, folks, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening. I love you, Aiden.
I love you, Daddy.